Welcome tankers, this is the TheRedCobra with another tank review. In this video I'll be talking about the IS-7, this manly, beastly thing. Now back when World of Tanks first had two tier 10s, there was the IS-7 and there was the Mouse. Now I joined up in World of Tanks at the beginning of 2013, so unfortunately I didn't get to see the legend behind the IS-7 when it first was available, but the modern day version is certainly something to behold. I don't think it's as good as the IS-8, as I've said in my other video, but that's just because of my play style. If you're a heavy tank driver, this is your heavy tank right here. Forget your E100s, your Mouses, and any other tier 10 heavy, because this thing is amazing. Now I don't drive it as good as most people do. If I did, I would have another mark on that gun, and I only have one, which shows that I'm used to the tank by now. But what I'll be talking about today is probably the gun and the armor and the mobility, just like I did with the IS-8. Now first of all, the gun, 130mm, is pretty beastly. It's got really good average damage. The accuracy is meh, but it's actually pretty good compared to other Russian guns. Aiming time is very meh. The actual gun reload on here, it says it's 11.82. So that's, that's decent, I guess. It's not as fast as the IS-8's gun, but it does more damage. It's a higher caliber gun, so obviously it would be doing more damage. It doesn't have heat. It's one of those tanks where it's a prototype, and it doesn't have a cannon that can load heat. It's got APCR, and I have a couple shells to use just in case, but I probably will forget they're there because I rarely use any gold ammo in my tanks. So the equipment I have for it is just your standard tier 10 heavy tank gear. Basically, you got your gun rammer here, and you got your spall liner because, Artie's a scumbag. And then you have an enhanced gun laying drive because this thing does aim very slowly. I could have ventilation in here, and it could help that reload and everything else a little bit more, but I felt that accuracy was very important. You want to make sure you get your shot off first. Even though you can afford to take some hits here, this armor is really good. I was so impressed when I first got this thing. I'd always heard that it's a beast hold down, but you're literally invincible as long as you don't have tier 10 German tank destroyers shooting heat at you. I mean, this pike nose, it doesn't look that formidable, but compared to the IS-8, IS-8 here, it's got 120 hull armor, and it looks kind of angled. But you go to IS-7, and that angle is more defined, and you have 150mm of steel all along here. Even angled like this, the lower glacis could be actually pretty hard to penetrate with lower caliber guns. The turret, don't even try shooting at the turret, unless you of course load gold ammunition and then, shoot all you want. But like the other IS tanks, the spaced armor is really good. There's about, I'd say, 50mm right along here on the outer edge, and over here it's a little bit more because it's sloped, but once it goes through, it's got 150mm of steel. So if you fire heat at the side and it hits your spaced armor right here with the IS-7, it's not going to do a thing. You want to aim lower down in here. You want to make sure you get down and hit the hull dead on instead of just shooting the side of the spaced armor, because your shell will get lost in here. Now, shooting at it from the rear, your best bet is probably to actually shoot the turret. The ammunition is back here, Yeah, obviously the ammunition's also in front too. It's a Russian tank. You shoot anywhere in the front, it's gonna hit the ammo, but I've seen a lot of ammo racks happen because you shoot at the back of the turret here. That's also where there's the least amount of armor. But let's stop talking about the weaknesses of this tank so I can enjoy it more. This thing is heavy, and it can go pretty fast down a hill. So if you see a lighter tank and you're in the IS-7 uphill from it, you may want to consider ramming it if it's alone without support, because this thing has a top speed of 59.6 kilometers an hour. Now, as I said in my last video, you probably won't go that fast. In my last video with the IS-8, I actually went above the top speed, and I had damaged fuel tanks. So, the statistics in the garage aren't always what they seem. Now, the hit points are lacking a bit here. It's got 2,150 health. In Tier 10, that isn't really good. I mean, you got the E100, it's got 2,700. And then you have the mouse with 3,000. You got the new Japanese Type 5 Heavy. Sorry about that, I had to check. I'm not into those Roblox tanks. So even though you can withstand some hits with the armor, you cannot take hits with your health. That's a good way to get yourself killed in this brawling heavy tank, is thinking you could sacrifice health, when really, you're one of the heavy hitters out there. Obviously the E100 and, the Death Star and the Death Star 2 and the British tank destroyers, they're pretty much the game's heavy hitters here, but as a heavy tank, you're still supposed to do a lot of damage and take a lot of hits. And the IS-7 excels in this. Now the view range is also pretty good, but IS-8's view range is ridiculous. But this 413 view range is pretty good for spotting enemies. But since you're a heavy tank, of course, medium and light tanks will always see you first. The maneuverability isn't that good on flat ground, and going up a hill, it's just downright painful. But if you can manage to go downhill on some maps, you can actually pick up some speed and maintain it for a good long while, which can surprise the enemy. Like for example, if you're on Corellia and you're up on that one northern right flank where there's the hill, you're up there, you're holding out, and the enemy moves all of their team over to the other flank, and no one's watching the hill, you can just rush down it and attack the base, and they'll be completely surprised by how fast you made it down there. They're expecting you to be slow, but you can make it to places they don't expect, and you could be in a good hold down position ready to fight back. Tell the truth, I don't really like this tank as much as tanks like the IS-3 or the IS-8 because of how much you have to rely on hold down positions. Now, like I said, I'm not an expert on this tank. I'm not particularly good with this tank compared to most other people, but I feel like this lower glacis plate is just too large of a weak spot. And coming out at its side, if people know not to shoot your spaced armor, they could just shoot right through your side. Even angling around a corner would be bad because experienced players would know if their cannon could penetrate the side here of the pike nose. Or if you're out a little bit more at an angle coming around and you're facing someone else, they could shoot you right through the drive wheel and keep you immobilized in place. And you couldn't do a thing about it. Just imagine the corner of a building right here. If you're aiming at them with this turret and this gun, you'd be aiming at the side of the building, and they'd be aiming right at your drive wheel, filling you full of shots all day long. So angling around corners is really tricky. So it's all about angles with this tank. This tank is all about the angles. I mean, just imagine if every part of this tank was flat. These stats would be nothing up here for armor. Russians knew how to make their armor work, especially against things like the Tiger. Obviously, the IS-7 would never entered service. It was a prototype. They never, they never put it out. It was at the end of the war that they made it. But you can tell what they planned to use it for. It was obviously a really heavy tank, but unfortunately, the matchmaking world of tanks doesn't pit it against other tanks of its era. You're facing tanks that range from World War II to the 60s, or even further on with other Cold War tanks. Tanks with guns that make armor look like butter. So if your tank consists completely of armor, you may be screwed. You go up against things like the Jagdpanzer E-100 with heat goes over 400 millimeters of penetration. I mean, no matter how well you angle, most likely it'll go through even your turret. Although I've faked out some shots, and I've managed to make them bounce several shots off my hull. If you're hull down, you can make it hard for them to penetrate you, but they can. So, what's the strategy you should use with this tank? What should you do if you unlock this tank? Well, first of all, when you unlock this tank, you're ready to go. It's all stock, and it's all the best it can be. I know that the IS-4 uses the IS-8's gun and the STI's gun. Obviously, it's already unlocked, but you have to buy another one. With this tank, it's all right there. So once you get that, you get your new crew, or you take a crew out of your premium Russian heavy tank and you put it into this tank. You're all ready to go. You got your ammo loaded. You maybe put some equipment on it first, put all your consumables in, and you go and you hit that battle button. But what should you do? If you have to be hull down, what maps are good? What can you do if you're caught out in the open with nowhere to hide? How can you use your armor effectively? Well, I'll show you how. I'll go into a live battle and show you. Yes, we are in Stalingrad, which is a really good map, coincidentally, for the IS-7. There's plenty of places to go hold down and take opportunities to stick out and even be vulnerable for a couple of seconds so that you could stick out and shoot someone in the side if they're looking somewhere else. Let's see, what do we have here? I actually have XVM stats turned on. I usually don't do that, but I figured you guys would want to see just how well statistically I am and how well other people are on my team and the enemy team. I usually have it turned off. I don't really care about stats. I mean, I'm a really good player according to XVM, but I make mistakes all the time. So don't always pay attention to what XVM tells you. And I apologize for the low frame rate and very poor effects. I mean, look at that. That explosion lasted for like a half second. So yeah. Intel graphics cards. Please don't get them. Get Nvidia. That's what FET did. I mean, look at that fire. What is wrong with that fire? It's like time is traveling faster. Anyways, onto the tank. Get up here into a hull down position. This is kind of a tricky spot here, actually. I'd much rather prefer to go over to the other side, but that could be risky. But I'm gonna risk it. Okay, paid off. Spotted no one. Always want that lower glacis angled. People say you don't want to angle in this tank, but they're dead wrong. Okay, here we go. Watch this. Face hug. This is what you want to do. If you're caught out in the open, you get up close and personal. Come on, shoot me. Shoot me. Come on. Here we go. Ah, there we go. See? I wasn't angled and he hit me in my weak spot. And someone else took the kill and took my shell with it. But that's what you want to do. Yeah, please get back, light tank. I'll take the hits here. So this guy just fired. Hit him in his lower glacis. 250 pens, surprisingly, at tier 10 can be underwhelming. If they've angled their weak spots, they're definitely going to bounce your shots from this 130mm gun. Is that angled enough? It isn't. I mean, it is angled enough to bounce my shots. There's a Yag Tiger right here. That's fine. Come on. What are you doing, Yag Tiger? There's a whole team behind me ready to back me up. This is a little tricky right here. What do you do in this situation? Well, this is what you do. You fake him out. And he just faked me out. Very good. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get up here, take a shell. This is a good angle for him. Alright, he's obviously loading premium shells here. I bounced a shot from the E100. That's the thing about this tank. It's all armor, so if they load gold ammo, you're worthless. Luckily, the E100 has a low enough pen with its standard rounds that you can easily bounce it. Yeah, a little bit to the right. There we go. That good average damage is very nice. Come on. He's probably going to load heat, and that's probably what's going to kill me. No, he's still using armor pierce. He hasn't learned his lesson yet. It's a good shot through the driver wheel there. That's the weakness of the E100. If he's angled, don't shoot at his hull. Shoot at his driver's wheel. Ah, he's too angled there. E100, I think, is going to be my next tier 10. I'm working on it. I got the... Oh, look at this guy. I felt sorry for him. Put him out of his misery, you know. E100 is going to be my next tier 10, I think. I'm at the Tiger 2. I'm working my way up. No! If you're an IS-7 and you're a one-shot to basically anything on the map, you don't want a Jagdpanzer E100 coming out of nowhere. Yeah, everyone's going to back off from this guy. But he's going to fire. Okay. He's fired. Ah, bad shot, bad shot. It's aim time on this thing. That's why I have the aim equipment, the enhanced gun laying drive attached. Because aim time is really important. Jagdpanzer's going to make a mistake. Uh-oh. 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 I didn't hit his... Oh, the Yag Tiger isn't paying attention. Oh no. Yes! It's my time to shine. Do it. No, no. Did you see that bounce, though? My rear fully to that Jagdpanzer E100. And he bounced it. Yeah, there we go. Just like the IS-7, if he's caught out alone, he's done. Except it's even worse because he can only aim one direction. Well, like I said, Stalingrad is a pretty good map for this tank. There's plenty of places to go hold down. I kind of used this area over here. It wasn't really that good against that Jagdtiger because he had shots at my weak spot, and I think he was loading APCR, but that E100 in the distance couldn't hurt me. Then again, the standard AP shells are like 235 penetration, so at a distance that would do absolutely nothing to the IS-7. So that was a battle in Stalingrad here. Fired only 15 shots because obviously slow reload. We hit with nearly all of them, but only 8 penetrated. 250 millimeters of penetration on this gun, I feel like isn't that good at tier 10. On the IS-8, even though the standard AP is 258, just 8 more pen, it's way better at shooting at tier 10s. In fact, I would prefer facing tier 10s with the IS-8 than in the IS-7, because the IS-8 is fast enough to get out of the way of them, to get around them, and accurate enough to actually hit their weak spots. And with just a little bit more penetration, it really feels like it can cut through it better. Being tier 10, it's expensive to run these tanks. If you die, your repair costs are through the roof. You don't play tier 10 to get credits, you play tier 10 because it's fun. And the tanks at tier 10 are always fun, most of the time. So I did 3,655 damage. In a tier 10, that's about average, I'd say. I got a kill. That poor WZ. Going out in the middle of nowhere and I killed him. But looks like I blocked nearly 3,000 damage, which is really nice. And this is probably the average amount of damage block you will see in this tank because of its angles. Now I took 10 hits and half of them actually did some kind of damage. That Jagdpanzer, what he probably did was, I didn't look clearly. Obviously, I was worried about the Jagdtiger. I knew the Jagdpanzer E100 was coming around my rear and he was going to shoot me right in the rear, but I think what happened was I probably turned the turret and he hit me right in the side of the turret and it probably bounced off. Or what could have happened was he could have hit maybe my rear at an angle, or even hit my side armor at an angle, and it probably went into my spaced armor here and just was lost in the void of strong Russian armor. But that was a decent match. This is probably an average match you would get. We had a chance to win of 46%, so the odds weren't necessarily in my favor. That Jagdtiger did pretty well, though, I have to admit. So obviously, getting ace tanker in this tank is more difficult, because at tier 10, you don't get as much experience as you would if you go like tier 9 or tier 8 even, and you shoot at tier 10 tanks. If you shoot at higher tier tanks like that and do a decent amount of damage, it's pretty easy to get an ace tanker because you earn more experience that way, shooting and damaging higher tier opponents. But being at tier 10, you're always at tier 10 fighting tier 10s and fighting lower tiers where you earn less experience for each shot you hit them with. And you're also, of course, facing tougher opponents. So tier 10 battles could prove to be costly. Costly to your stats, if you're worried about that kind of thing. Costly to your profits, as you could see in the detailed report. Obviously with a premium account, you would be getting pretty good profits all the time, but, I like to challenge myself. But I hope that was a good example for you guys in a nice live battle of how to use this tank on the go. But I'm going to show you a replay of where this tank excels. Here I am in the manly IS-7 on the map Mountain Pass. This map is excellent for going hull down. There's plenty of terrain for you to get around and actually hold off entire columns of tanks on your own. And in this replay I choose just the right places. Now Scout catches all of the enemy team crossing the open. And I actually take time to shoot at some of the higher tier tanks over there. Now you didn't see the little ribbon that pops up in this replay, but I got a critical hit on that, what is it, an E5 American heavy tank, so I probably took out his driver, and it's good to do severe damage to them in the beginning of the game. We have a pretty good team formation here. The heavies up north, tank destroyers watching the bridge, and the rest of our heavies moving in down south, and that's very important for the heavies to get down south fast. So I tell the rest of the heavies remaining at the open area, don't stay there, come over here with me south. Because if you hold them all in this valley here, you could do a lot of damage to them. So I get into position in this hull down area, put a shot into the IS-3, and IS-3 puts a shot into my lower glacis, but I was angled, so it did absolutely nothing. I aim at the Centurion, and a Rheinmetall catches it. Is the IS-3 going to shoot again? Nope. Okay. Rheinmetall hits my gun, but I repair it, and I take him out. IS-3 tries again at my lower glacis, but 225 pen isn't enough. Yeah, he's trying to fake me out. He's doing a pretty good job, but I'm not taking the bait. So I'm waiting for him, and then I try and fake him out. No, it didn't work. But it worked this time. He comes out again, but he doesn't even aim at me. He puts a shot into the E100. He's like, screw him. Centurion over there tries a shot at my angled plate, right on the pike nose, but it does absolutely nothing. Aiming there, got a good hit into that heavy. The IS-3 has just stopped shooting at me altogether. He thinks I'm just invincible, which at this angle I am, but he could hit me through the drive wheel and do some serious damage that way. I'm watching him, but I take the bait, and I actually bounce off the opposite pike nose there, off his opposite angle plate. He puts a shot on the IS-3, but our friendly IS-3 actually rolls a better damage roll, so wow. That was a good shot through my gun mantlet. I don't know if he used APCR or what, or maybe my gun mantlet's weak there, I don't know. I keep trying to hit him through the turret, but it doesn't do anything. 250 millimeters of pen, it just doesn't cut it for that one. Oh, this is cool right here. The E100 pushes up, and I see that he's trying to put pressure on those two IS-3s. So, a friendly IS-3 moves up, E100 plants a heat shell right into the IS-3, and I move up too. Look at this formation we got going here. Teamwork at its finest. And I decide, well, there's two tier 8s down here, so let's do this. But look what happens. I shoot right through this guy's track, and it goes straight through into the ground instead of doing any damage to him. Does that seem familiar? Have you seen that before? Yeah, when it happens it sucks, but eventually you'll learn, and I'll learn not to shoot down into their tracks. So the E100 just completely decimates that other IS-3. Yeah, that did absolutely nothing. I shoot into him, He's shot angled through my spaced armor on the side. That would do absolutely nothing. Our friendly IS-3 over there has died, and now our E-100 is being pressured from the side. So I'm slowly crawling, because I'm on a flat surface here, trying to get around them as best I could. Finally I do, and I start putting shots into this T-34 here. The friendly IS-3 obviously had no clue of my intentions, so he started cussing at me. I took a good hit from I don't know what, maybe artillery. Put another shot into the T-34, but what was that? We were being capped. So I don't stop to aim. I think the E-100 got the kill, but I don't even stop the aim because we need to get back to the base. As you can see on the map here, there isn't a whole lot that could stop it. There's a Rheinmetall Bosig though, Waffenträger. Ooh, and he just headshot that poor little guy. Our heavy is holding out here. He's keeping them at bay. But that Rheinmetall has to get moving in order to reset the cap. I'm telling that Rheinmetall he has to get over there and reset. He's our only hope. And we're coming along slowly, but he has to get in there. So he starts inching slowly out, trying to spot whoever's in the cap. Oh, he took a good hit from the IS-7. IS-7 is trying to get behind cover there, trying to reload. He misses with an HE shell on the wreckage of that friendly tank there, and the Rheinmetall shoots right through the lower glacis. He didn't even try angling it. So that gave us just enough time to get through here. Look at that decapitated turret there. Rheinmetall puts a good shot into the T-28 prototype there. I auto-aim because, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to come around the corner. He hits me through the low... Oh, are you out of nowhere? It is intense, but there isn't enough health left for them to do anything against us. So I reload, and I get right in on this guy. Take out the prototype. RU thinks he's smart. Nope. Teamwork at its finest. These war-torn beasts managed to win the day. That Rheinmetall, though, deserves the credit. And here we have an artillery showdown with our last heavy tank over here. And I had no clue what was going on because it hadn't rendered, but it seems it didn't go well for the artillery. Sucks to be him. So it was a really good match. We got high caliber. We got first class mastery badge. It's really hard to get ace tanker at tier 10, but overall good results. We did 5,104 damage with the IS-7, 3 kills. But look at the Rheinmetall Bosig on our team, 4,000 damage. And he has a tier 8 and a tier 10 battle. That is impressive. Good job, Rheinmetall. And we made a hefty profit there. I didn't shoot any gold rounds. All of our shots hit, and most of them did damage. And with that high alpha damage of the IS-7, you can get a lot of damage done. And we blocked a crap ton of damage too. So it was the IS-7, my second favorite heavy tank in the game. If you're a heavy tank driver, definitely give this thing a try. Definitely use your time to grind up to it because it is worth it. It's one of the most original heavy tanks of World of Tanks at tier 10. And I just love it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and have a nice day.